Masquera say Mure Zimbabwe, welcome to our channel Accusations and Deep Secrets. Kana kariki mtanga kukwepa nino channel, please don't forget to subscribe. Kana uchungo waka subscribe, don't forget to comment and share this video. Masquera Zimbabwe takigirai nyaya buda nepa X yabuditswa ndi news rocks Mure Zimbabwe apo ZANU-PF activist abuda ataka the former CIO boss wa Isaac Moyo akafaiwa na President Emmerson Mnangagwa by this post here or CIO director. So the ZANU-PF activists varutendo matinyarari avo varikupusha for the Zimbabwe anti-sanctions movement zvakare vachipusha for the anti-genetically modified organisms. Activists vabuda vachitaura ivo vachiti the former state security central intelligence organization director General Isaac Moyo hanzi vanga vari corrupt person, zvakare hanzi he was incompetent and hanzi he was a spy for a foreign power, hanzi vaiabuse services avo for my political battles Mure Zimbabwe. Vabuda vachivapa mhosva yekudisrupta the anti-sanctions campaigners Mure Zimbabwe zvichinzi vaipiwa mari nenyika dzekunze kuti vaoneke vachistopa zvinhu zvakadaro Mure Zimbabwe. Hazvina kumira mushe, vabudindira mberi vamatinyarare vachitaura ivo vachiti vaIsaac Moyo vaipiwa mari zvakare nemacompanies aipinza maGMO munyika yeZimbabwe hanzi vovapa access to matenders ekusupply zvinhu muno muZimbabwe. Tisingazive kuti nyaya chokwadi here kana kuti vabuda vachitaura ivo vachiti he was offered an opportunity by the CIO boss kuti vanenge vachipusha the agenda yavo Mure Zimbabwe hanzi asi vakawanikwa vachiramba munyaya yabuditswa neThe News Hawks vachitaura ivo vachiti ZANU-PF hatchetman Rutendo Matinyarare, who is also the dodgy Zimbabwe anti-sanctions movement chairperson and an anti-genetically modified organisms activist, says former state security agency Central Intelligence Organization Director General Isaac Moyo, recently removed by President Emmerson Mnangagwa, was corrupt, incompetent and a spy for a foreign power who abused the service for political battles, disrupted the anti-sanctions campaigners and sabotaged the nation, effectively accusing him of treason. In a stinging and no-holds-barred social media post likely to trigger alarm and shock within the CIO hierarchy and top political echelons, Matinyarare commends Mnangagwa for removing Moyo, whom he described as someone who was inept, took bribes and spied for the French during his failed tenure. Matinyarare also says Moyo intentionally sabotaged the country, deployed CIO for partisan political battles and undermined the country's interests in various ways, which are practically treasonous. He also says the former intelligence boss used the CIO to disrupt the Zimbabwe anti-sanctions movement and the anti-GMO lobby because he was paid by companies which import GMO products through a retainer to sabotage them. Matinyarare also states that the CIO is agent within his movement and tried to recruit him as its secret propaganda weapon, but rejected the offer to be its asset. Now that Moyo is finally gone, Matinyarare says Mnangagwa should further clean up his corrupt regime and reconfigure the CIO. Matinyarare scathingly writes on X and said, "Now that CIO boss has been removed, I will now release my book and the fight against sanctions. It is incredible news that President has removed and replaced Isaac Moyo, the head of Zimbabwe's Central Intelligence Organization. This is no ordinary reshuffle because in a country where the head of intelligence is rarely touched, for Emmerson Mnangagwa, the man who built Zimbabwe's post-independence intelligence system, to make this move speaks volumes. It is clear the former Director General failed in his duty. Under Moyo's leadership, the once formidable CIO became inactive at fighting national security threats as it focused on fighting political battles only. It failed to fight and counter sanctions or to stop the chemical war and food of toxic cancer-causing GMOs into our nation. Despite its own internal reports exposing foreign intelligence agencies as a key player in this chemical war by GMOs against Zimbabwe, and now the devastating result. Zimbabwe holds the tragic title of having the world's highest cancer death rate, proof of the suspected chemical and biological warfare waged against us. But it wasn't just failure that characterized the Director General's tenure. The more serious was sabotage. Anti-sanctions organizations like the ZASM were deliberately infiltrated by counterintelligence operatives under Moyo's watch. Instead of empowering us to fight sanctions as a counterintelligence operation, his office worked tirelessly to undermine our efforts. They stole our strategies and implemented them piecemeal without ever giving credit, and even tried to recruit me as the chairman of Zimbabwe anti-sanctions mission into a covert propaganda unit. In an effort to control and weaken the most potential national anti-sanction movement, the greatest opposition to our anti-sanction and anti-GMO campaigns came from foreign enemies, but from the very institution that should have been our greatest ally, the CIO. Nonetheless, despite this betrayal, we found critical support from counter forces within the system who defied the Director General's orders and followed higher orders to help us fight for Zimbabwe. A few of those who initially stood with us in the fight against sanctions were later turned against us in the anti-GMO fight, as they aligned themselves with smugglers of toxic GMOs, forex externalizers, and economic saboteurs on instruction of Moyo and his inner circle. They even began to attack some of the invisible angels who were instructed to help us fight sanctions. Rumor has it that the DG and his close personal circle had been put on a hefty retainer by some of the GMO smugglers to destroy me for daring to fight against their smuggling and forex externalization operations. Now that Moyo is gone, we hope the president clears out the remaining elements of his corrupt regime, those on foreign payrolls, those on payrolls of those sabotaging our economy, our country, and the president's agenda to rebuild Zimbabwe. For years, insiders within African Union and intelligence networks across Africa warned us of how Moyo was compromised, especially his alleged ties to France intelligence during his time as Executive Secretary at the African Union. But as a sitting head of intelligence, he was untouchable until now. This removal is proof that President Mnangagwa is armed with enough intelligence to act decisively against those working against the nation of Zimbabwe. It signals the beginning of a crucial cleanup within our security apparatus. I am hopeful and confident that Zimbabwe is being rebuilt brick by brick with a stronger foundation for our future. Ndomabudikirwa kaitwa nyaya iyi muri Zimbabwe na Rutendo Matinyarare achiaccuse the CIO boss, the former CIO boss Isaac Moyo. Tinazive kuti munoona sei nyaya itudzi zvamuri kufunga mu comment section.